Hi everyone, I'm Madeline Park, stylist and vintage fashion hound. I believe everything has a story, whether it be clothes or the people that wear them. For season 2 of Style Stories, I want to get out of the house, but find a place where I still felt at home, like Lucio's, the iconic Italian restaurant known for its colour and charm. My guests tip their hat to Lucio's by seasoning their stories with a taste of art, food and family, but always bringing to the table their unique sense of style. Today I'm chatting to Briony Fitzgerald, Sydney-based interior designer known for her masterful layering of colour, fabric and texture to many beautiful homes and the occasional Michelin-star restaurant. Briony lays claim to being the daughter of late television pioneer Bruce Gyngell and revered interior designer Anne Gyngell. Despite the bright lights and bold colour that fabricated Briony's childhood, she's developed an understated style and saves the bells and whistles to her designs, allowing her work to be the star of the show.
Now I suddenly got nervous.
Don't be nervous. Thanks for coming and
Thank you.
chatting with me today.
Pleasure.
We obviously know each other because you've helped me with my house, and I think it's very beautiful. But
It is very beautiful. Well, you and Daniel are easy and open,
yes.
and I think that's the most. People are open-minded.
Yeah, but the thing that you've done, obviously, you've listened to a lot of who we are, and I feel like there's a lot of me in there, but you've really
Guided.
Yeah, but more than that, like I could never have done it on my own.
No, but I think it's interesting because I always say this to my staff. I say, listen to what the client's saying, because listening and looking of what they want is how you learn to understand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it is that thing. It's all about collaboration. It's like giving you what you want, but that you've always wanted, but better. That's how I see our job.
Yeah, well, I would never have chosen a really blue
sofa.
I would have gone for, I would have gone in with a grey or...
But also too, you've got 2 small children, so you needed a darker sofa. Because otherwise...
No, I love it.
Oh, good, good.
We'll get into your interiors, but obviously today I just want to talk about fashion and your style. So starting off, you've got a lovely, rich history of stories, but I want to just start off by understanding what's your first memory of a relationship to fashion.
It probably does go back to interiors a bit, but my mother was an interior designer in Sydney for like 45 years. And when I was little, she used to work for probably the most famous interior designer in Australia, which is a woman called Marion Hall-Best. And she was... she brought Marimekko, Artec, all to Australia. Okay. And I think it was just starting to understand textiles, like the fabrics that were around, the colour. And there was a brand called Marimekko made clothes as well. They were Swedish. Yep. So we all wore them when we were little. We all had, they were called wormies, stripy wormies. And we all had all these sort of striped dresses. And also, when I was about 15, I shouldn't, but I got chucked out of school. Yeah. And what I decided to do is I went and did fashion at East Sydney Tech.
Can I ask, why did you get chucked out?
Just because I was naughty, very naughty. I always got caught jigging school, and they used my mother drove past and saw me walking up William Street because I went to Skeggs down in William Street, and my father just said, I'm not paying for you to go to an expensive school anymore, and tore up my school uniform. It was one of my many stories. So I sort of was left at home and thought, what am I going to do? And I obviously didn't finish school, and I didn't have any academic capability. So I think because my mother was an interior designer and I was always around colour and I was always around fabric and furniture and builders and everything, I seemed to decide to go and do fashion. Yeah. So I went and did fashion at East Sydney Tech and did dress design. And I think it just started my love for fashion and textiles and sewing. So, I started making dresses out of all the Marimekko fabric, which are incredibly too bright. Yeah. Kind of because I was young, I didn't have a clue. And I suppose that's sort of where it started. That's really where my passion for fabric started. Okay. Like, that is my greatest passion today. It's textiles, fabrics.
And how would you, like, you're a rebellious teenager. how would you dress yourself at that stage of your life?
Okay. Every single weekend before I went out, I made myself something to wear.
Okay.
So I went through a very huge, unfortunate jodhpur period, and I would literally make a pair of trousers every single Saturday afternoon to go out with on a Saturday night.
Okay.
So they'd be orange with green knee pads, they'd be black and white check, they would be as loud, hot pink, chenille. They would be as loud as they could possibly be. And then, because you couldn't get flat shoes back then, I just wore ballet slippers. So we're talking like 1975 now.
Yeah.
75, 76, 77, 78, that sort of period. So I just had, I used to spend my entire life at Block's ballet shop in the Strand Arcade buying hot pink, lime green, silver, orange, whatever ballet slippers I could. And also I was incredibly influenced too by Flamingo Park by Jenny Key and Linda Jackson.
Oh, right.
Because their shop was also in the Strand Arcade, and that was like walking into
a colour explosion,
a jewel box of that was just spectacular. Like I went to the exhibition at Christmas that they had down at the Powerhouse, and it just, God, my God, talk about memory lane. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I had quite a few of their jumpers, and I found them incredibly, especially colour-wise, like really inspiring, because I was brought up with incredibly bright interiors, like hot pink, lime green glazes, colour everywhere. Like art and colour was literally that's what my mother was into. I suppose I transferred it onto myself physically, but thank God I calmed down as I got older, because it wouldn't be appropriate anymore.
So for those who don't know, your family's obviously very famous. Your dad was the first man on television. As you said, your mum was a prominent interior designer.
Yeah, very prominent interior designer in Australia.
And you and your brother and sister have all done kind of very creative roles.
We've done very similar things to my parents. My brother went into television and ran Channel 9 for a long time. My sister's a chef, a Michelin-star chef in the UK.
Yeah.
And I'm I was in dress design, fashion. Now I'm an interior designer, which I've had a business for 30 years.
So your mum obviously created a very bright
environment
for you. What was it like for you guys growing up with parents that were in these amazing creative roles? What was the dynamic in your house like?
I think the interesting thing was, when you've been brought up with it, you don't know any different. I'd walk into other people's houses and go, why is everything beige? Why do people live in a beige world? I don't understand that. Very conservative. I don't know, all our environments were incredibly joyful.
Did you feel that joy otherwise in your house? Like was it that environment?
All I know is when I walk into a beige place, I just feel there's like a dead feeling, when I walk into, even when you walk in here into Lucio's and you just see all this art, and it's uplifting. So I don't know, it was just so part of our childhood. We moved a lot. We lived in the UK, we lived in America, we moved a lot because of Dad's jobs working in television, but Mum would create incredible environment wherever we went. So I was very used to having builders around. Things were always being renovated, painted, changed. It was just, I don't know, it's how we kind of lived.
Yeah. And if you moved around a lot, I imagine you and Sky and David, you're all really close, were you?
Yeah, my brother's David's 5 years younger, so he's a bit, Sky and I are very, very close. We're only 17 months apart.
Okay.
And our aesthetic is very, very similar, and she asked me to do her restaurant in London. And we always talk about, this might sound quite strange, she always talks about her plate of food being framed by a white plate, and I always talk about my woodwork's always white.
Yeah.
So how we always have a frame that contains whatever colours or whatever shapes, whatever patterns we're using. It's got to be bordered by something that contains it.
Yeah.
It might sound strange.
Yeah.
But it's sort of the way that we work. It's the common thread or denominator that links everything together. So Sky and I talk with Sky and I and Mum are very, very similar on that creative path, because Mum's now a painter. She's 84 and she still paints. But we're always talking about composition, position, how everything comes together. My brother's in television, my father was, my husband's in the film industry, my son's a director. It's like either film or creative. It's kind of two different veins. But Sky and I have always been close. I remember when I did the restaurant, I found this Moroccan cushion, and it was all pale blues and pale pinks and pale whites and rusts and oranges, and I bought that because I thought that's the palette of the restaurant. That's all in that one piece of fabric, that one big cushion, and I took it to Sky and I said, that's what your restaurant's going to look like.
Yeah.
She looked at me like, okay, I think I get it.
Yeah.
Show me what you're going to do, but that was the palette, the tones and the colours that we all used together.
Yeah. So you obviously you've gone into a lot of households, and you probably created that joy from the colour, but like how you've looked at a lot of the way people live,
yeah.
but how did you guys live in terms of engendering that creativity in all of you? What did that look like?
Whoa.
Did you play certain games that were? Was it,
It
just
is so. It is so. I just think it's so learnt from our childhoods. Like I even think of my brother. He sat with Dad and Kerry Packer and sat in the room with all these men that just talk television all the time.
Yeah.
I think it becomes innate.
Yeah.
Like I used to go to work with Mum. I used to be in all her houses. I used to see all her colour. I think the interesting thing about both of our work now is I know probably I've done a much more work with textiles than she had, especially I think with fashion, and also the fact that I was a pattern maker and I could sew. I know how things work. I know how things go together, which I think is really, really important. But it's I don't know, it's so learned because I didn't train as an interior designer. I literally just went to work and started doing it.
So
and faked it as I made it.
How did you go from fashion to interiors?
I got married and was living in the UK, and when I was 21, and I was married for about 18 months, and it didn't work out. So I came back to Australia, and I thought, I didn't have a job at the time, and I thought, oh God, what do I want to do? And I thought, I actually don't want to do fashion anymore. So my mother actually offered me a job.
Okay.
She had a practice very similar to mine, like with about 9 or 10 people, just doing sort of bespoke high-end residential work. And she said, oh, you can have a job with me. And I said, I don't want to be an interior designer. I don't want to work for you. And she said, well, you're not doing anything else, so you might as well come and get paid and get a job.
Yeah.
So I started working with her, and I also started working, I was very good friends at the time with Peter Lewis, who started Porter's Paints.
Okay.
And that was the first sort of like small bespoke paint company which did line washes and frescoes and paint finishes and, specialty products. And I started working for him, and I started mixing paints. Yeah. So I used to mix all these paints for him, which was actually the most incredible learning experience of just know how every colour's made, how you mix colours, like for all the paint finishes and the glazes we did. I just learnt how to mix colour. And they had a very small company. His company only was kind of 4 people, and I worked there part-time, and I worked for my mother sort of part-time. And then I'd also met Jeremy, who I'm still married to, like I've been with for 34 years. And we got together, we got married, and we started having children. Yep. So I stayed working for Mum, and I stayed working for Porter's Paints part-time when my kids were little. So when Isabella and Ben were small, I used to probably I sort of managed to work, 4 hours a day every day. And then literally the Porter's Paints got bigger, and I started doing, people used to come into Porter's Paints, and then my mother retired, and people just started to ask me to do colour schemes. So I started doing external and internal, just paint specs for people, just specifying paint. Mm-hmm. And that was just me by myself and when the kids were little. And then it is literally, as they've grown up, my business has just grown. Yeah. And Isabella's 29, and I've been doing it for 30 years now. So it's literally, I worked 9 till 3 every day. Then they got teenagers, and then I got a business, and then I got premises, and then I got staff, and then it's literally just step by step. As I've had more time, it's just grown, literally.
I always love listening to those stories, because as someone who's got little kids, you're kind of always grappling with what should I be doing, and I'm restless, so I'm always wanting to do something. And I remember you telling me that story, and when you were working at Porter's for 4 hours a day, and just thinking and looking at you now, it's
just kept doing it. You just put one foot in front of the other, and like you, my husband Jeremy's in the film industry, and he goes away all the time. So I spent a lot of time doing solo parenting. He's probably been away for 15 years of our relationship on movies and commercials. So I couldn't. You literally, you didn't have you had to be really organised work in the allotted time slot while you've got someone looking after kids and then go and pick them up. So in a way, it kind of made me quite disciplined, I think.
Yes.
You know, I became effective. I became quick and effective in what I did because I didn't have very much time. And then
you're an octopus, aren't you? Like, there's hands everywhere doing multitasking.
Probably. And I just learnt so much on the job, you know, working with people and having great clients and experience. And I just learnt. And I listen. I listen to what everybody's saying. I listen to what everyone's saying on the telephone. I'm always got my hand in every kind of like pot of what's going on.
So colour's been a big part of your life from the beginning, and what I find funny about talking about your style now is that you're known in the interiors world. You're absolutely known for colour, like you're the colour lady, right? But in styling you and knowing you for a few years, you
don't wear any colour.
You barely wear any colour.
I know, it's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah. How did that reconcile, or how did that move over your...
I think it's about the hair.
Right.
The hair says a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white hair.
Yeah.
And I just think it doesn't need to be a fight with what's going on. So I thought, I've always got this big curly hair, and I've always probably worn a lot of black, pale blue, dark green, and I'm pretty plain.
Yeah.
I like a masculine look. I would be honest. If I could wear suits, I used to always think, because my father used to wear the most beautiful suits, if I could just wear a suit and a tie, a really beautiful suit and tie and trousers, beautifully made, and a great pair of shoes, I would be happy.
Yeah.
So I much more gravitate to a more masculine look.
Yeah.
I see women walking around with beautiful dresses and go, wouldn't that be lovely? And I put it on and I just feel like...
You're dressing up.
I just feel ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't suit my personality or something.
So when did that shift for you?
It's I've always worn separates. I've always worn trousers and maybe skirts. I think I might own one dress in my entire life.
Right.
Hardly ever.
So you weren't, even as a little girl, you weren't a girly girl?
No.
Did your mum want you to be? Did she try? I'm just thinking about that story you were telling me the other day about your birthday party at Bruniers or Nanch's.
I did have a white dress on and red Start Right shoes.
Yeah.
No, I probably would have been. Mum probably would have dressed us up. But she would never have been. My mother I probably dress quite similar to my mother.
Right, I was going to ask
She's the same height as me. She's got straight hair, but it's the same colour. She wears pants. She's always worn like a lot of Armani, kind of quite suit, quite stylish. Never too... I've got no interest in drawing a lot of attention to myself.
Yeah.
I just like it to be kind of just subdued, elegant, and tailored.
I was actually listening to a podcast last night, and I was like, this is a perfect time to listen to it, knowing that I was going to talk to you today. And the conversation was about energy and how to be productive. It wasn't necessarily about creative work, but one of the points was that when you don't put a lot of energy into like the colours and trying to dress yourself, when you dress yourself in like a uniform, it means that all your creative energy can go to another place.
That's really interesting.
And I was like, that's an interesting thing to listen to the day before I speak to Briony, and I wonder if part of it...
I suppose it's interesting because I know if I look at my wardrobe, I would have probably bought exactly the same thing for the last 20 years in different versions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Look, there's definitely that thing of getting older, of... you don't wear short skirts, you cover your legs, you cover your arms. There's just all of that stuff. And I think also too, it's actually easier to dress elegantly in winter than it is in summer, because when it's hot, it's just so much harder.
Yeah.
You've got to cover.
And do you feel the heat too?
Yeah, I don't like. This is my sort of weather. Yeah. I love this sort of weather.
One of the people I've interviewed before, Josh, who's Giuseppe's partner, and Josh is very similar to you. Wears similar colour palette. Hates the heat, doesn't he?
I don't like it freezing, but if I could live without February and March any day of the week, it's just too uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you said that you kind of dress like your mum. What style cues? Because you've obviously said your dad was a very stylish man.
He was always one of the 10 best dressed men in Sydney. He had beautiful. It was just. I think it's just simple in quality. Do you know what I mean? Simply cut. I don't like to be over embellished. It just beautiful fabric, well cut, simple and elegant. Like, I don't wear jumpers. I've probably got 10 coats.
Yeah.
So I just swap coats every day. I wear the same sort of trousers, trainers, shirts. I've just got versions of.
Yeah.
And I just put, and they all kind of go together. And like every time I go to buy something, I go, I've just bought the same thing that I bought the other day.
Yeah.
Or something very similar.
Yeah.
I probably wear slightly more patterned shirts.
Okay. And so, but your dad was known as Pink Panther, you were saying?
Yes, he always used to wear pink shirts with white collars.
Yeah.
Because he thought wearing pink made people happy.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing. So he'd have a white collar, pink shirt, white cuffs, cufflinks, and then he'd have whatever pinstripe, whatever sort of suit that he was doing, and he always had pattern ties.
Yeah. And pink is, well, at least know in my house, there's a lot of pink.
We like pink. Yeah. I love pink too.
I know, because it's in Sky's restaurant as well.
It's in Sky's. I've got pink glazes all on my ceilings through my house at home. So a lot of pale pink or hot pink. But I don't think it's pink used in a feminine baby, especially the way pink's used at the moment.
Yeah.
Like that sort of nude pink that's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, that
pink. We sort of stay away from that.
Yeah.
But we did use pink, we used pink in Sky's restaurant, and it's just a really lovely warm colour.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, as we were saying the other day, I've got it in my laundry.
That's right. You've got a pink bench top in your laundry?
Yes, and it does make me happy.
Every time you walk in?
Yeah, yeah. So do you think that subconsciously, like, you maybe have held on to pink from your dad rather than something your mum did?
I don't necessarily know that, but I definitely know that colour changes the way that you feel.
Yeah.
And I remember we did a house down in Point Piper, and this client is pink mad, and we've got pink glazes and incredible textiles everywhere. Like, she's got the most beautiful art collection. It's one of my favourite houses. But every single tradesman that walked in there when we were installing the job said, I love the way this house makes me feel. They never said they liked pink,
but
they always said it changes the way it's happy. This is a happy place to be. And I think that is the most important thing, especially when you're doing a house, is that you can change the way people feel in their environment, and you can change it with art, and you can change it with colour. And I think, if you shut yourself down to a really neutral environment, I don't think it's good for your soul.
Yeah, yeah. When we first moved into our house, it was all beige, and I was like, no, I can't.
It just kills you.
Yeah.
It kills you.
So
but a lot of people are really, truly terrified of colour.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't a beige person, but you've certainly taken me to
another level. That's good.
And now I look at my house, and I love it. And honestly, I do walk home, especially when the house is clean.
Yeah, that's the greatest feeling when the cleaner's left. Yeah.
I walk in and I do think, oh wow, this place
makes me happy.
It does make me really happy. So one of the things that I heard you talk about in another interview was this sense of emotional intelligence that you got from your dad, and like this intuition that we kind of started talking about at the beginning of the interview. When you go into a house and you're trying to read the family, what are you looking for?
Well, I think it's a combination. There's a combination of a few things. There's the client and the person, what type of person they are. I'm the first person to say that we're not a good fit.
Yeah.
We don't go together.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always ask people, have you looked at the website? Have you seen anything else we've done? Because I'm not your normal
run-of-the-mill designer.
Run-of-the-mill design. Not that I'm any different, but what we do is different.
Yeah.
Also, so it's the client. It's also this is probably sounds the weirdest. The house tells me what it wants.
Yeah.
Completely tells you what it wants. What way it's facing, what way the light is, what the space is doing. It's listening to the people, looking at what art they've got, looking what they're currently living with.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a whole combination. And then the other thing is, say if they go ahead with the process, the first month or so is getting to know them. So there's probably that process where we're basically drawing, where we're doing all the floor plans, we're doing all the layout, and those first few meetings of just getting to know someone, what they like, and we put finishes out and we show them images and we show them mood boards, and it's me connecting with them and seeing what they're gravitating towards from probably previous work to know what direction I'm going to go with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a process. It's the getting to know, and it's that real thing that I said earlier on, and I say to my staff, I said, listen to them. Do more than listen. Watch and listen to what they're doing, because they'll tell you.
Yes, in subtle ways
of what way they're going.
God, I wonder what we told you.
I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. So it is so intuitive. Like, I've walked into jobs and I've met people, and then I've gone back and said, look, I really don't think we should work together. I don't think I'm the right person. And it's nothing that they're wrong or I'm right. It's just that I don't think we're meant to be together.
Yeah, but you have a very down-to-earth, natural style to you, which I felt really comfortable with. I've always felt like I can just say to you, nah, I'm not into that, or I just knew that always knew you were listening to what I needed from a family perspective. How, given that you've had, like, I imagine a very affluent, exciting upbringing, how have you you've always been very level set, and there's not one level of elitism in you.
Do you know what I think it is? And people have said that to me a lot. Every single person in our family, it was about their work. It's what they do.
Right.
Dad was absolutely, completely passionate about television. You know, Mum was passionate about what she does. My sister, Sky's a chef. She's passionate about what she does. It's more about what we do. It's not, I don't know. Everybody's always worked really, really hard. We love what we do. I don't know, and my parents weren't like that.
Right.
I don't know if it was back there in the 60s, everyone was, life was a lot more settled.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel special or any different to anybody else.
Right. Despite the ponies.
No, despite all of that, I don't know. I suppose, and Dad always said to us, you can do whatever you want if you work hard enough.
Yeah.
If you want it enough and focus on it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And we were all like, my brother walked out of school in year 12. I got chucked out of school in year 11. Sky was the only one who finished school and went to university and did arts and Italian for a little bit. But we've all basically kind of got taught that you need to find your passion.
Right.
And I think my children have done the same thing. Like Ben's done directing and script writing and make short films. Belle's is actually been quite ambitious with all her sort of journeys through, advertising and Facebook and all the things that she's done. We're all quite driven, I suppose.
Yeah. So in terms of your work and even your personal style, you kind of followed a lot in your mum's footsteps. Now, she sounds like she's still a very active woman.
Yeah, she's 84.
And I think I read somewhere that she's like still lifting weights or...
Well, she hurt her back, but she now does Pilates 3 times a week. And she teaches art at the Wayside Chapel.
Okay.
So I think there's always been a really strong element of service. Like, whatever you do well, you do it with service.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about, it's never ever been about making money.
Yeah.
It's always been about doing a really good job and making people really happy and making every experience creatively individual. Does that make sense?
And you do that, because I know that when things didn't go, like, not that things really went wrong.
Everything goes wrong on every job.
There were a couple of things that went awry, and I always knew I was in safe hands, and because I knew that you really cared about getting it to the way that we all wanted. And from that service perspective, I know that I really felt that the whole way through.
Oh, that's really nice to hear, because it is. There's so many elements in what we do that is purely what it looks like at the end. You know, it's the experience of getting there. It's the builder. It's how you look after your clients. There is so much. The design bits sometimes feels like it's only 10% of it. Yeah, it's such a small bit. Yeah.
And I can see the correlation between what you do and what I do sometimes. Because it does become very personal. It's about making people feel
comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
And not feel intimidated, because so many people go, I'm going to ring up a designer. I've had to clean up all my house and get the flowers out. And I go, no, you don't.
I don't think I ever did.
No, but there's so many people that are kind of get so nervous, and they're so sweet when you're coming over to their house. Yeah. I go, don't worry about it. It's not, Yeah,
it's a home.
And I'm like, I know that my first meeting is much more about me connecting with them than actually about their house. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's so much more than just the house.
So going back to your mum, so she's this very active woman.
Just lives down the road.
Doing her Pilates now, doing her artwork. How do you project seeing yourself when you're her age? Do you see yourself being a similar type of energy, or...?
We're very, very different people.
Yeah.
Actually, which is interesting. I'm much more like my father than I like my mother. My mother is quite a loner.
Okay.
She left my father when she was about 49. Okay. And has never met anybody else. And she likes solitude. I'm probably complete opposite to that.
Yeah.
So, but the way that she lives her life and the way she carries herself, I think I'll probably be quite similar.
Yeah.
Like, she's very healthy, she's very fit. She engages in the world. She does her, service with the Wayside Chapel teaching art. It probably won't be the same, but it would be similar.
And style-wise?
Probably the same. I'll probably be wearing jeans and trainers when I'm 86, probably. Or a pair of trousers and I don't actually think the way that I dress will change particularly much between.
Yeah.
Unless fashion does something radical, but I probably won't be too old to care by then, I suppose. If you just keep it simple, you can't. There's not too much. You can't get yourself wrong. You can't get yourself in too much trouble, can you?
Yeah.
So probably similar.
The coloured jodhpurs and knee pads.
They're behind, far behind.
Yeah.
But hopefully be travelling. I mean, I intend to work for at least the next 10 years.
Yeah.
At least till I'm 70.
Yeah. Oh, well, everyone will want you to.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
Still got to pay off the mortgage of the building, so I've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I like working. I always think, and I think it was like that other podcast, it was like how to manage yourself without, burning out.
Yeah.
That is one of the things I'm really, really conscious about. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like health, I exercise a lot. I eat really well. I don't ever work on the weekends. I just do not kill myself for anybody anymore.
Yeah.
People say, do you want to come on Saturday? I go, sorry, not interested.
Yeah.
You don't have to work that.
Past that.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not that desperate.
Yeah.
I've got enough work. I love my clients. We've got a certain level. We consistently seem to get work. I've got absolutely gorgeous staff. And they're all young, and I think that's really important. I think that makes a huge... They're sort of all under 30.
Yeah.
Or most of them are. I think that really kind of keeps you connected and kind of present and up to date. Do you know what I mean?
So you are a nurturer as well. Like, I can see you with your staff, and you kind of, I imagine that they would come to you.
Probably too much.
Yeah. I could see that you would.
But I do. I love them
them
all. I love them all. I love them all. We are like a little family. We all eat together every day.
Yeah. So if Isabella and Ben, they come home with grandchildren, what kind of grandmother do you reckon you'd be like?
I'd be good for 2 hours. Maybe not 24. My mother always had my kids to stay. She picked them up from school. I'd probably be similar, yeah.
And is Isabella, in terms of, the continuation of style, is she similar to you and your mum?
No, not in the sense. She is so different, it's not funny.
Yeah.
She is Queen of Fake Nails.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Victoria's Secrets.
Yeah.
She is so different from me. I don't know how I gave birth to her. I don't know how I gave birth to her.
Yeah.
No idea. She's got long strawberry blonde hair. She's so girly.
Oh, she's so pretty.
And she's so blingy. We're so different.
Yeah.
It's just not funny.
Yeah. But you're super close, aren't you?
Yeah, super close. Well, she lives in London. I probably speak to her 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But we're very, very different.
Yeah.
She's much more like Jeremy.
Right.
Ben's much more like me.
Yeah, right.
It's just different. But no, I'm really close to both of them.
Yeah.
But they've both got British passports, so they're spending a lot of time in London.
It'll be a while before they're back home.
Yeah, but it is. I'm busy. I'm working, thank God.
Yeah. Well.
But I do look forward to the day we have they have grandchildren. But I think they've got a lot to do before that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Something tells me.
It sounds like it.
I think they'll be doing that for a while. But I look forward to it.
Yeah.
When it happens.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Briony. It was so lovely to chat.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you for sharing your story.
My absolute pleasure.
Briony's childhood was coloured by parents who dedicated themselves to bringing a slice of joy into the homes of many Australians. With big shoes to fill, Briony's rebellious teenage spirit was channeled into fashion design. However, she eventually did follow in her mother's footsteps and turned her colourful hand to interiors. While her interiors career ramped up, ironically her personal style toned down. However, her commitment to quality craftsmanship and attention to detail continued to bind both her work and her style. While Briony pays homage to her impressive lineage by always offering a sense of service to her work, it's her commitment to colouring lives and homes with joy that define her style and put her in the spotlight.